welcome to Exploring Majors and Minors. How many of you have thought to yourself, am I in the right major? Is this really good for me? Okay, you can say yes in your hearts. Okay, we got some hands. Because I was saying, like, we're your advisors. We saw the appointment requests. It's a lot more of you than just two. So we're going to go over a few things that you might find interesting. Obviously, we're going to talk about exploring your primary major. Are you actually in the right major? You might be. We're going to talk about minors. We're going to talk about those double majors. We're going to talk about something that you probably been calling a double major, which is a dual degree or a second bachelor's degree. Then we'll talk about some questions you want to consider. And then, of course, once you're ready, you're like, no, I'm either considering that minor or I'm changing my major. We'll tell you how to do that. So, I'm Alex Loriaga. I am the Assistant Director of First Year Advising for the Humanities Clusters. You are my students. This is Emily. So I'll have her introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Sluffer. I recognize some of your faces. I'm one of the assistant directors in natural sciences. And we'd love to have you all introduce yourselves a little bit, get to know some of your neighbors. So if you're sitting next to your friend, try and talk to someone behind you or in front of you. Just introduce yourself, name, current major, and one thing or skill that you are thinking of interested in learning while at USC. And that can be academic. It could also be, I want to learn how to ride a longboard. I know some of you are still working on that. So go ahead, turn to your neighbor. We'll give you about 30 seconds.
So something that you may have noticed or you may not have known about, but at USC Northside, we group majors into what are called clusters. The idea being that roughly around the lines of discipline, we group majors into kind of likewise buckets, and that actually this designates who your advisor is. So we have the humanities. It's the English department, the history department, the philosophy department, and the gender and sexuality studies department. Chances are, if you are a humanities student, you already know who I am, and you know that my joke's terrible, so I'm sorry. We also have the natural sciences. So this is a long list. I promise I will not read this to you. But if you are a natural sciences student, your major's up here. We also have the social sciences. These should look familiar to you. Of course, if you are an undecided, undeclared student, you have an advisor that is not one of the ones I've listed already, and that's because you have Jessica as your advisor. And then our last but not least, our languages and cultures cluster. These are language and culture adjacent majors. So the reason that we talk about this is if you are thinking, I kind of like my major, but it's not the best of fits. I kind of want to do something similar, but not quite. Chances are, there's another major in your cluster. Talk to your advisor about that. They can tell you about similar majors. But at the end of the day, you decide, yeah, this isn't the right fit. But you don't know what the next fit is. What we do want to stress is try not to think about what do I want to do for the rest of my life, because you really shouldn't be making a decision right now. Talk about who you want to be. So ask yourself, who do I want to be when I grow up, when I want to be for the rest of my life, what I want to be for the next 10 years, the next 6 months. You can also talk about, why your current major isn't quite the right fit. What is it you like about it? What is it you don't like about it? It's okay to answer both these questions. What does my major, of interest really entail? So, if you are a history major and you're like, this is great, I love all the numbers. I'm not so big on looking at people's lives, though. Okay, what do you like? You like the numbers. You like knowing about, different countries, different states, different cultures. Then we'll look at majors that fit that. What does my major of interest support? Does my major of interest support who I want to be? There's nothing wrong with saying that your big priority is making money after college. We've heard it all. I would highly recommend, though, if you really want to make money, and you want a major that's going to make you money, is that what's going to make you happy? Because therapy is expensive. And then, what skills will I learn from my major? Regardless if you are a history major, a international relations major, a biochemistry major, you're going to be learning skills. You're going to learn how to write. You're going to learn how to do research. You're going to learn how to think critically. What skills do you want? Because all of you are going to need to write an email at some point. And I don't just mean academically, I mean professionally, we will be writing emails. So you should probably take some writing classes. A good thing is required. So look at our next one. So you can perform a self-assessment. You don't have to do this now, but if you have paper and pen, you can start doing this. Start listing out your interests, skills you want to learn, or skills that you're really good at and want to get better at, or skills that you're not good at but you think, I really should get better at this. Then your values. You know, what means a lot to you? If money is what means a lot to you, put it in this column. Again, no judgment. It happens. But if, you know, travel is important to you, you want to travel the world, make sure to put that on there. If social time is on there, I highly recommend not getting a job where you don't talk to people. And then, of course, goals. What do you want to do? Do you have a bucket list of 50 countries in 50 years? Put those on there. List them out. Dream big. This is the best time for it. You've got plenty of time between now and graduation to start narrowing things down. And so, Emily's going to tell you some other tools of how to do this.
Thanks, Alex. So what we just talked about is some of kind of the big things to be thinking about when you're thinking about, is this the right major for me? Or even if you're thinking about, should I add a second major? Or should I add a minor? These are the kind of things of how does it build who you want to become? How does it align with your skills, your goals, your values? Those are the things we really want you to be thinking about when you're thinking about making a major change or adding a new program. But now let's talk about some of the tools to understand what a major entails, what majors are out there, what minors are out there, and we're gonna start, even though we just said, you know, don't only think about the career opportunities because what you think you wanna do after college may change. But we know that's where most of you start. We know that you start with, what can I do with this major? Or what can I do with this minor? Or if I double major, does it make me more competitive? So we're gonna start with some of those resources. And so we're gonna start with the career resources, and one of the really awesome resources that USC has available to you is a what can I do with this major resource. We will send you all the links to these at the end of the presentation. We'll also have a QR code that documents them. So don't worry, you will get all of this. But they're more updated than this. This is the older version because now it's a active portal. It's interactive. But it would have like for a career, like for example, this one is our major, astronomy and physics. What are all the different career paths that are typical from that major? What are some of the skills that you learn in that major? What are some of the opportunities? So this is a resource that's available to you as a USC student. So if you're considering a new major or a minor, you can actually see what do students typically do with that. The other thing is if you're not sure about what you want to do career-wise, but you know that you want to put yourself in a major that's going to set you up for your long-term career, there are also a lot of career assessments that are available to you as a USC student. And again, we're going to link you to where all of these are housed. But this can help you do kind of like that self-assessment that Alex presented, but with a specific trailer to your career path. So it will look at those and then suggest possible career paths from there. And from there, you can sometimes tailor down what majors might help you lead there. Another thing that's really helpful when you're thinking about what do I want to do can be sometimes informational interviews. Informational interviews are where you meet with someone who works in a certain career or who graduated with a major that you're considering, or maybe even an upperclassman or a professor in that major or in that department. And you're asking them, you know, you're not actually interviewing for a job, but you're asking them, what does their daily life look like? What does their career look like? What has their experience been in this major? So these kind of informal conversations can really help you in exploring what it's actually like to be in those shoes that you think you might want to pursue. And then of course, gaining hands-on experience. I am a poster child for this myself. I thought I was gonna build airplanes when I was in college, and then I worked in a job where I built airplane parts, and I absolutely hated it. So hands-on experience can be a really great way to also figure out what you think you might want to do long-term, and therefore help you tailor down what majors are going to be the best fit to get you to that place. There are a bunch of resources available both via Career Pathways. Career Pathways is a Dornsife specific career advising office. They have a whole portal called Dornsife Compass. where you can search for available on-campus jobs, off-campus jobs, part-time jobs, work-study positions, summer internships, and even things that happen full-time when you're ready to graduate. There's also Connect SC, which is the USC-wide career portal, and that is jobs, tailored not just beyond Dornsight. So you have access to so many ways to search for internships, for resources, and you can see some of the campus internship programs that exist here as well. And again, we're going to link you to where you find all this stuff, or just kind of show. All right. So those are some of the career tools that might help you in narrowing down who you want to be post-grad, but also then therefore what major you might want to be, or what combination of majors and minors. But how do you really know what that entails from an academic perspective? So now, looking at academic resources, the first and foremost, if you are interested in a Dornsight major or minor, next week is actually our major and minor fair, which will take place here on campus, and there will be department representatives from all the different departments on campus. So if you are interested in learning more about a major or a minor, maybe connecting with faculty or the advisors in those departments, maybe even some might have student reps, this is a great opportunity for you to go to this event and learn a little bit more about the programs you're interested in. Your advisors. We're plugging ourselves. Advisors are here to help you figure out what major you want to be, to talk about what a major entails. So especially if you're thinking, I'm really interested in business, or I'm really interested in psychology, whatever that might be, there are advisors all across campus who are able to help you kind of understand what the major entails, how it fits into your program, what the requirements are to change majors or to change add a minor, whatever that might be. Obviously, we all advise for Dornsight majors, but there are our colleagues and counterparts in Viterbi, in Annenberg, in Cinema, in all the other schools, and we can also help direct you to those folks if you are considering a major or minor program outside of Dornsight. We want you to pursue what you want to pursue, whatever that may be. Department websites. There are a lot of information on our department websites. This is, and students are always like, how do I find more information on this program? A lot of the times, as an advisor, I Google the department name and USC, and that's where I can find the information if it's not one of the majors that I advise. So looking at department websites, that can give you information on the faculty, what kind of research they do, if they have any kind of special programs. For example, some of our majors have special course offerings that are designed to help their students get internships or into research and are open to those students in a major. Some will have exploratory courses that you take in your first year to help you understand those majors. So a lot of information can come from the departmental website when you're trying to figure out what does this major actually entail. Exploratory courses. So some of you will be looking to you're about to set your spring schedule. We're coming up on registration for spring. So if you do have some spare space in your schedule, a good way to explore a new major or a minor is to take an exploratory course. What is one of the lower division courses that's required for that major? And especially, does it overlap with the GE? So one of the resources that we're going to give you in a link is a list of where you can find all of the GEs. And all of their program descriptions. So you can see, like, if you're interested in psychology, you can see all the psychology courses that also count as GEs. So that way, maybe if that's something you're exploring, that might be the GE course that you choose this time around. And then another thing for trying to see what is the right fit can be student organizations. So even if you're not currently in a major or a minor that's in one of the areas that you want to explore, you can use Engage SC or talk to your advisor or the advisor for the program you're interested in to see if there are any related student organizations. And sometimes getting involved in those can be a really great gateway into finding out if that is a topic you actually really enjoy. For example, I have a student who is really interested in exploring the physical sciences, and so they're getting involved in one of the rocket organizations on campus. Because that's a way, the Rocket Lab organization, because that's a way to kind of explore that even though they're not in one of those physical science majors now. So you can think about, are there any organizations that will help you explore this area? All right, So I know we just covered a lot of different ways that you can explore. And again, all of these things we've talked about, we have links as to where you can find these resources, where you can find department websites, how you make appointments with advisors. We also, for all of you who are interested in potentially a major or minor in another school, we have the links to all of the different websites for those programs as well. So you will be getting all of that after this presentation. We're going to switch gear a little bit and talk about minors, because I know some of you are here because you're interested in a minor. So what is a minor? It is a academic program, a structured program that will consist of at least 16 units. Some of them may be much larger, but at minimum 16 units. Completion of a minor is designated on the transcript, and you will receive like a little separate mini diploma at the end of upon graduation, if you do complete a minor. There are hundreds of minors at USC, and one of the links we'll be sending you is, this is just a small screenshot of it, but it is the list of all the minors offered at USC. This is just the A's. There are so many. And some of them are so unique you wouldn't even know to think that they exist. For example, chemistry just created a new plastics and the environment type minor. So if you're interested in, plastic in society and how that impacts the environment, there is a minor for that. So this is a really good way to start looking at that list and see if there's anything that interests you. It will link to all the requirements so you can see how many courses are required for each minor. When you're thinking about adding a minor, we really encourage you to think about what is your reason for doing this. Because some of our students will come and say, I want to add a minor because I think it's just better. But they can't always, say why they think that's better. And so really think, what does this minor program add to my overall experience at USC? Because sometimes just taking a lot of classes, you can gain experience and skills in so many ways. You can do it through extracurriculars, you can do it through jobs and internships, you can do it through research. So think, are these extra classes really adding value to my overall portfolio as a student whenever I graduate? And in many cases, minors do. Sometimes they're really, really similar to what you're already studying, and so they might add some depth to your experience. Like you were studying chemistry, and you're doing a minor that's going to help you dive deeper into some very specific field within chemistry. Sometimes it's to add breadth. So maybe you are a sociology major, but you really are interested in business, you want to be an entrepreneur. So you're also interested in one of the minors over in Marshall. So that adds a unique component to your experience. So we really want you to think, what is your reason for doing this minor? And we really want to encourage you not to be just because I just think I should have a minor. What does it actually add? Another reason to add one is because your academic interests aren't part of just one single major. Sometimes, like for example, I have students who are interested in biology and chemistry. And there is a major called biochemistry that combines the two. Sometimes it works like that. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes there is not a perfect major that combines all of the students' interests. So sometimes adding a minor to a major can help you kind of get that specific thing that you're looking for. Diversify your experience and knowledge. So again, this is kind of similar to adding that breadth. What new skills are you learning? And then also taking a structured curriculum versus general electives. Many of you are going to have a number of electives in your schedule no matter what your major is. And some students want to just take classes that sound fun, things that they're interested in. They don't need it to be part of a specific program. Some students really want to have all their electives be tailored towards one goal or one area or one focus. And that's where the minor really comes into play. A couple common policies about minors. These are things that students sometimes don't always think about when they're thinking about adding a minor. Is that at least 16 units or 4 courses have to be unique to the minor and cannot overlap with another major or minor program. So sometimes we will have students who are like, I want to do this minor because it has a ton of overlap with my major. Sometimes that isn't possible because there's too much overlap. So do note that all minors are going to be at least 16 units because at least 16 additional units because at least 16 have to be unique. For many minors, they also require that 16 units be taken outside of your major department. So if your department is biology, You have to have in your minor at least 16 units that are outside of that biology prefix, BISC. All upper division courses have to be taken in USC. All courses need to be taken for a letter grade. So no pass, no pass. If there's something you're thinking about taking for an exploratory course that you think you might use towards a minor. And do note that some of the minors in schools outside of dorm psych may have application requirements. So for example, like minors in the Marshall School of Business, there is an application. It's not like applying to USC. It's not like applying to change majors. It's a little bit more. It's not quite as robust. It's a pretty quick application, but you do have to fill it out. Some minors will have you establish a USC GPA first. They want you to establish a USC GPA before they'll admit you. In dorm psych, minors are really, really easy. So if you are interested in a dorm psych minor, you can just email your current academic advisor and they can add it for you. They can also refer you to the advisor for that minor if you have questions. But just note that some of the other programs are going to have some requirements. This is the question I think we get the most. How do I know if I can fit in a minor? How do I know if it fits my plan? And first, you can always schedule an appointment to talk to your first year advisor. We can help you identify how many free spaces you might have in your plan. But you can also do this a little bit on your own. The first thing I always do with students is I look at the minor requirements to determine the number of courses. So this is an example of a catalog page. You can see it from the whole list of minors. If you click on the chemistry minor, it will show you how many courses are required. And you can look at that and see, okay, do I need to overlap with my major? Okay, it's gonna be, let's say it's gonna be 16 units. You know, it's gonna be 16 units and they're all 4-unit classes. So you need like 4 spaces for a 4-unit course. The next thing you can look at if you're in a dorm psych major and staying in a dorm psych major is our sample course plans. And these are all available online, our sample 4-year course plans. And then you can see how many elective or minor spaces might be available in that plan. And it doesn't mean that you're gonna follow it exactly. You're not gonna necessarily take all your minor courses at the end. Those are the ones designated in yellow on this page. But it just means that it probably will fit. And then it will be working with the major advisor and the minor advisor to figure out how to schedule those courses together. But that's a good way to know if it might fit. When you're looking at these sample course plans, it's important to know that some of them, particularly in some of the natural science, so some of those students that live in the sciences, there are not a lot of degree electives. There are not a lot of these yellow courses. But we normally have these course plans be what we consider like a worst case scenario. So these are typically like those if you don't bring in any credits from transfer coursework, you don't take anything over the summer. Also, for example, like if you don't need all 3 semesters of foreign language because you have AP scores, or you started with Spanish 2 because you placed into that level, then we may be able to change some of these red or orange boxes to yellow boxes. So I always look at, do I need a full foreign language? Also, do I, for GEs, GE categories A, B, C, D, E, and F are what we call our core literacies. G and H are our global perspectives. G and H can overlap with A, B, and C. On most of these sample course plans, you'll see G and H separately. So they're in fall of junior year and fall of senior year on this course plan. If you were to overlap your GEs, you may be able to change those 2 red boxes back to yellow boxes. And so that can open up some more space for that minor or that second major or whatever else, those electives, whatever else it is you're trying to fit. So that's what I do with students when they come in and ask me in minor quiz. We look at the minor, we look at how many courses are required, and then we look at the sample course plan. We see, okay, are you following this plan? Did you have to take any additional courses? Do you have any transfer courses so you don't need to take any of these? All right, do you have foreign language already, or did you start with level 1? All right, are you planning to overlap your GEs? If so, that might open up some spots. And then the last thing to note is that most of these are going to be 16-unit semesters. So if you have a minor that has some 2-unit courses, your tuition covers up to 18 units. So you can potentially take some of those 2-unit courses even as additions onto this plan. So those are the different things to think about when you're just trying to figure out like, will this at all fit? And if you have questions, we're your go-tos. think that's fine. Oh, no, one more. What if I can't fit in a minor? There are some students who are really, really interested in some of our minors, and especially some of the bigger ones that are more like 28 or 32 units. Sometimes those can be hard to fit into some course plans. If you can't fit in a minor, remember that that's not the only way to take that coursework to get that skill. So you can always take electives or courses for that minor without completing it. So that is one option. Another is to see if there's a similar minor that requires fewer units. I have a lot of students interested in, say, like the business minor, but they may not have as many spaces as is needed to complete a business minor in 4 years. But there are other minors like business law, which is only 16 units. And so for some students, that can be a better fit. And then also think about alternative ways to gain skills and experience. So just like you can gain the same skills as you might from a healthcare studies minor, if you are doing shadowing in a hospital setting, if you're doing some sort of internship, if you're working in some sort of organization or club. So there's other ways to also gain those skills.
Alright, so if you have decided that, okay, you don't really want to do a minor, you want to look at a double major. I'm going to talk about kind of how that fits up. So, a double major, as far as USC is concerned, is when you are working towards completing 2 majors with the same degree objective. So, if your current major is a BA, you need to get another major that has a BA. If you are a BS student, you need another BS, BFA, BM, the various other bachelor's degrees. Those are called degree objectives, so they need to match. And it needs to be in the same USC academic unit. So if you're in Dornsife, which you guys are all in Dornsife, to be a double major, it needs to be another Dornsife major. There are some exceptions on the catalog. You'll see some majors in other schools, like in Annenberg, have an asterisk next to them. Even though that major is housed in another school. The one that comes to mind is the communications major in Annenberg. It's housed in Annenberg, it's not a Dornsife major, but it's granted by Dornsife. So you could be a current major in Dornsife and a communications major. That's a double major. I'll tell you what the difference is between that and a dual degree. So, a dual degree or a second bachelor's degree, depending on your advisor, you'll hear either of those terms, is when you're pursuing a second major, but it has a different degree objective, so BA and BS, or it's in 2 different schools. So you're a chemistry major in Dornsife, but you're also an engineering major in Viterbi. Those are 2 different schools. That is a second bachelor's degree. Something to kind of keep in mind with dual degrees in particular. You're required to complete an extra 32 units of undergraduate coursework while you're at USC, in addition to fulfilling those major course requirements. So that means that you are going to complete a minimum of 160 units. So if you look at your course plans and you were registered for 16 units, you're starting to probably do that math that's 10 semesters or 5 years. So if you didn't bring anything in and you are doing a second bachelor's degree, you will not graduate in 4 years unless you're doing something in the summer or you're transferring coursework in. Keep that in mind. It's totally doable. There's nothing wrong with graduating in 5 years. You're getting a second bachelor's degree after all. But it can make it difficult. So how do you fit in a second major? So I picked one of my majors because it has more elective spaces than economics does. Take a look at how many of those there are. Look at the other major that you want. You're going to do a double major. There's like 8, 9, 10 classes. See if you have enough elective spaces. That slips in very easily. But also look at GEs. There are a lot of GE courses that overlap with major courses. You've probably seen this for your own major. That other major probably also has GEs. Also, take a look if there is some overlap between your current major and your future major. The rule of thumb is 2 classes can count between 2 majors. There's some notable examples where there are 3 between them, but it's not very common. So your advisor will tell you if you can count 3 between the 2 majors. Just keep in mind 2. So if you're doing, say, history and Spanish, those might have classes where, even though they might not overlap, so that you have electives as one major versus another major, you might be able to overlap two of them. Let's go to the next one. Cool. So why do a double major or a second bachelor's degree? Well, kind of for the same reason you would do minors. You're going to add breadth or depth to your area of interest. And there might not be a single major that encompasses both your interests. Now, if you are in biology and you're interested in chemistry, or the other way around, there is a biochem major that combines those two. If you're interested in physics and computer science, there is a combined major for that. That's not the case for everything, so sometimes the double major is the way to go. And then finally, just diversify your experience and your knowledge base. It's okay to like two different things. In fact, there's an award that students can get at the end of the year for having things in two different discipline clusters. It's called a Renaissance Award. So, but then sometimes, and it's okay, you just can't fit two majors in. Either you really want to graduate in 4 years and that 5th year is just not going to happen, or you've already got a ton of courses on your plate already, you just can't fit in anymore. That's absolutely fine. You are still going to graduate from a really great university. You're going to learn a lot. It's okay to have one major. You could pursue a minor. They're smaller. You could explore whether that major functions as a combination, so like I said about computer science and behavioral economics and psychology. That's also a combined major. And then, of course, consider other ways of getting experience. You do internships. You have a culture that you want to learn about. You're also an economics major. See if you can't combine that into an internship or research. So we have questions that you can consider between now and the major and minor fair, or between now and when you meet with your advisor next. So when you're going to the major and minor fair, here's some questions to ask. What majors and minors does this department offer? As Emily said, there are some minors that you'd never know we have. We have over 90 majors and over 90 minors at Dorrance Site alone. I guarantee you cannot name them all. So check them out. Look at the departments, look at the catalog. Also, how many units are required? How many courses are required? Are there any prerequisites for admission? Some majors, really easy. You just talk to the advisor and you add it. Some of them, there's an application process. Some of them have prerequisite courses that you need to take. Then what opportunities are available in this department? Maymasters, study abroad, research, internships. Then what career paths do graduating students in this major typically pursue? If this is something that's interesting to you, go ahead and ask the department. And then, are there any upcoming events in the department where I can learn more about the major? Or are there any introductory classes where I can learn more about this? It's more of these exploratory classes and exploratory events. And then questions to ask yourself. How committed do you feel to your current major? How do you guys feel? Fairly committed? Okay, we got some thoughts going on. We got some people who are committed. Good. Do I understand what my current major or intended major entails? Have you looked at the learning objectives for your major? What it actually says it'll teach you in 4 years. And then, if you could build your ideal major right now, what classes would you be taking? Literally from scratch. Don't even think about your current major. Just, if you could pick any class at USC, pull them together into your ideal major, what classes would those be? See if there's a major that is, in fact, that combination of classes. We're pretty close to it. Or a combination of major, minor, major, and another major. What are my interests, values, and skills? Does my current or intended major align with these? Do I know where to find more information on those majors or minors? And then, am I pursuing a second major or minor for the right reasons? Is it going to make you happy? Is it going to bring depth or breadth to your experience? Or is it because, you're worried about whether or not you're competitive at the end of the day? And then, Are there ways I can gain the desired experience or skills without adding a second major or adding another minor? Would an internship do the same thing? Of course, yes, this will.
Okay, so hopefully those are some things that if you aren't already thinking about, that you are thinking about now, and some things to think about before you meet with your first year advisor during pre-registration advising, which is coming up, and also for the major minor fair. We will give you a handout that has some questions to ask at the major minor fair and some places where you can take some notes as you leave today. So you'll have kind of a guide with you if you do go and attend that event. Regardless, you can still be doing lots of exploring. But if you do feel ready to declare, whether that is a minor, a second major, a second bachelor's, a double major, a second bachelor's degree, or just changing your primary major, if that's within Dornsife, contact your first year advisor. Most of the time we can do that for you. Sometimes we might have you watch a video first that gives you a little information on that major. Sometimes if you're doing a really complicated double major, we might ask you to come meet with us. But that's a very straightforward process for most of the Dornsife majors. If your desired major or minor is outside of Dornsife, again, we're going to send you a resource that has all of the links to every single school here at USC and where they put their information for continuing students trying to add a minor or a major in their program. But you can also always connect with your Dornsife first year advisor who can refer you to the right person. Again, some of these majors that are outside or minors outside of Dornsife are going to have application processes, especially like Viterbi has a whole pre-engineering process. For some of the more artistic schools like cinema or dramatic arts, there might be audition processes. For things like Marshall, there are certain requirements you have to complete first. But all of that is still possible. So if you do need, we'll scroll through these really quickly, but if you do need to figure out who your advisor would be for the program that you're interested in, here they are. We'll just scroll through them really fast. And then with that, this is the resource document that we have. It's 2 pages. It has everything. You do not need to scan it now unless you want to take a look at it because we will be sending it to you if you check in. But this has all of the different things that we talked about, where you can see the list of all the programs, all the majors, all the minors, where to find sample course plans, how to find department websites, all these career exploration resources, they're all here.